Right, we should be recording. Can I see the file? Thank you. I've started this a few times. Hopefully I will not keep making the same mistake, which is to talk past what I'm trying to talk about. And what I'm trying to talk about is we're into the video processing scripts, and I want to first focus on the FFmpeg filters that I will use when doing the video processing. This block of code, except for the last piece, I'll get to that, is the same across all of my video processing scripts, okay? And if I make a change in one, then it's, okay, copy and paste across. So even though I have the 6 scripts in here, we don't need to worry about looking at any of them but this test x265, okay? And also for clarity, test x265 and also my test SVT AV1 HDR, which does have one thing different. I will explain that one. And not this. That I will explain another time. It's the has one less filter. This one, I'll get to it. Those are what I use to run through what I cut out via the cut script. These are what I experiment with to figure out, okay, is this working or not? Is this going to be good quality or not? So, quick thing to explain about FFmpeg is its filters are pretty easy to work with. The syntax can be a little weird, but they are pretty easy to work with in that it's just, you start writing them out. Here's one filter, comma, next filter, comma, next filter. Keep going. If you do complex filters, which we're not doing here, there's no reason to use a complex filter for what this is supposed to do, okay? That then involves semicolons, because that's saying, hey, this can relate to a different stream. We're not doing that. It's one video stream. There can be multiple audio streams. That's handled completely separately, though, okay? That's going to be its own video. So for now, though, because it's like, okay, well, it's a comma-separated list of filters, how do I start the first one and not have a comma? Well, fortunately, there is a filter that I want to run at the start regardless. And that's this. Set PTS equals PTS minus start PTS. So it's the set PTS filter. What does that do? I'll be honest, I saw this years ago, maybe more than a decade ago, and it made sense what it was talking about, so it's like, oh, yeah, I'll use that. And I just have always used it since. So this is my memory for what it is, and I don't feel like looking it up. Sometimes it is possible for the time codes, the timestamps, for the different streams in a file to not be aligned, and not all start at 0. This is to fix that. So if it's ever off, it's like, nope, you're starting at 0. Okay? It should never come up with produced media, such as a Blu-ray or DVD. Should never come up. But just in case it does, it's there. And even if it never comes up, so it does nothing, it's still, okay, we got that thing before the first comma. Now let's get to this here, which technically, all this is concerned with the same thing, which is deinterlacing video, which by and large, if not totally true, Blu-rays don't use interlaced video for the main feature. Extras, yes. I've definitely seen that many times, but not the main feature. DVDs, however, can be hit and miss, which is one reason why when I do see something and be like, you know what? That I don't need to get on Blu-ray, but I hate interlacing. So I'll get it on Blu-ray instead of DVD. That I've legitimately had these arguments with myself because interlacing is so annoying to watch, in part because not that 265 and AV1 don't support interlacing. I'm pretty sure they both do, but that doesn't mean they do it well. So I want to do deinterlacing, which also occurs to me I should explain what interlacing is for those of you that do not know. It is part of an older video standard that at this point, I mean, plenty of things still broadcast in interlace, but it is, a lot of stuff has moved away from it. Well, no, that's not true. There's the 1080i interlaced HD standard, but Blu-rays, that's going to be progressive. Streaming services should be progressive. Should be. I don't know if they actually are, but they should be. But DVDs and terrestrial broadcast television, when it's not HD, it will definitely be interlace, some HD will be interlaced as well, because the HD standard, at least in America, is 720p or 1080i, with the I indicating that's interlaced. Okay, so what is interlacing? So with traditional television, you have 480 horizontal lines, 480 tall, except each frame is actually only sent 240 lines. Okay, now it's still technically spanning the full height, but it's only giving you the odd frames. Then you get the even frames, then the odd frames, then the even frames, back and forth like that. So they are interlaced together. The reason you do this is technically each frame you're sending half the data of the whole thing. Makes it easier. And it's also with persistence of vision, you're not going to notice most of the time. Now at this point, because the bulk of televisions today are LCD or OLED, which will be progressive, meaning that they can take the full frame at a time and draw the full frame, versus CRTs that originally were interlaced. So would be doing that same thing. That's how it was drawing the stuff on the screen. There were some progressive CRTs, but those would be computer monitors, not television. But anyway, it's older standard, newer stuff. It can work with the interlacing, but it will do some level of deinterlacing. Television will do it. Your DVD player, your Blu-ray player, those will do it. When you're playing a file locally, like in VLC, that will do it. I recommend turning it off, though, for testing purposes, because you want to see, is this interlaced? It is? Okay, turn this stuff on. So what's this first one here, this field match? It literally, because these are fields, this is field, the odd field, the even field. It's like, okay, these match together, so I'll combine them, deinterlacing them. Cool. But it might also be like, these don't match, leave it. So I actually have the information up here. My television is right there. So field match equals mode. So this is just telling you what the mode is, and that. So how should it try to do that? And I'll just read what it says here. Two-way matching, which I'm pretty sure means that it would be looking at both frames, not just one of them, but both, to see, okay, do these go together? Trying third match if still combed, meaning that they're still interlaced. And trying fourth and fifth matches if still combed. So this is basically, hey, if you see an interlaced frame, really look around and see if you can find what goes with it, okay? Comb match equals full. Need to grab the right mouse to find that one. When comb match is not none, field match will take into account the combed scores of matches when deciding what match to use as the final match. Got it. So at full, that says it use combed scores all the time. The default, however, is combed scores are only used when a scene change is detected. So nope, I want to deinterlace every frame. So if I'm understanding this correctly, when it's trying to figure out, okay, does this interlace frame go with this one or this one? It's doing things to try to figure out, okay, how much are they? It's trying to figure that out. And it's either just put them together, don't do any of that matching, only do the matching and scene changes, or do it all the time. I want it done all the time because I want it to find the best frame to match with it, and I want that done for every frame it can. Okay, and now Compel, which almost sounds like a Vulcan name. The number of combed pixels inside any of the block Y by block X size blocks on the frame for the frame to be detected as combed. While by the way, I've found out about this command there, so somebody who knows this stuff better than me, because I just copied it and experimented with it and found that, oh yeah, this is actually very effective and was better than other methods. It's not perfect. I'm going to get to that. Anyway, while C-thresh controls how visible the combing must be, this setting controls how much combing there must be in any localized area, window defined by the block X, block Y setting. On the frame, how visible it must be. This setting controls how much combing there must be in any localized area on the frame. Minimum value 0, and maximum is block Y times block X, which point no frames will ever be detected as combed. This setting is known as MI in TFM/VFM vocabulary. Default value is 80, so it's little lower now. Because that's what I saw somebody reference a while ago. So, okay, so it's trying to do all that matching for me. Cool. But it misses some. All right, it's possible for it to not find that match, so there's some interlaced frames left. Or just doesn't, maybe it's unsure. It's like, maybe those match, maybe they don't. I'm not going to touch it. So, that's where this one comes in. This is another deinterlacing filter. I also have the thing up. Deinterlace video using a neural network edge directed interpolation, NNEDI. Okay? So this, you need to give it the weights file, so that's just the trained neural net. But when a neural network is trained, it will spit out some file that's then what's loaded up by computers in order to actually take advantage of the neural net. You're not building the neural net, you're just taking what somebody else had already figured out. Okay, so that's what this is. That's what a weights files is. And this is what that file. And here's the link to find it, which, by the way, is also actually, it's the same exact link given in the FFmpeg documentation. So if you look up the FFmpeg list of every filter, look up NNEDI, you will find the same link there. Okay? So what this is saying is, hey, use that. And by the way, technically, this can be changed. Right? So you could train your own neural network, create a comparable bin file, and use that if you want to. Or you just, if somebody else came up with a better one, you can use that. So that's why they're doing it instead of it being baked in. It also technically helps with licensing purposes, not relevant here. But this is key. This is key. So, years ago, when I was doing the search and trying to find a better way to deinterlace than I had been using, when this Reddit thread that I have the link to there, I had something that was very interlaced. And say, okay, let me experiment with this. Let me try to figure out what's nice. Like, oh, neural network, that in theory should be good, right? That should work, right? Well, don't get me wrong, it works, but it was visibly softening the image, and especially without this dint equals interlaced, because it would then try to run on every single frame, including those that aren't interlaced. Because fun fact, on DVDs even, some of the frames can be progressive. You can have both. Because nothing can be simple. So yeah, that helps, because what that means is it only looks at the interlaced frames. If it's a progressive frame, this filter does nothing. It's not going to look at it. I technically could run with this stuff on all the time, and it shouldn't have an impact. I think I did try it once, though, and I did see a little bit of softening, so it's like, now I'll just leave it off. Plus, this way I know FFmpeg isn't trying to run some filters it should never need. But yeah, so any interlaced frames that survive field matching, this will work on. Because it does do a good job, but it can soften the image. But it's hey, I want all the interlaced frames dealt with. This will take care of what's remaining. And as I said, we've got this here, for where to find it. But there's also this that I do need to mention. Can use that. So what is that really saying? Let me just show it to you like this. So in situation. So that's saying is, hey, go up a level. Go up a level. Okay. That is what this means when you are dealing with paths. As in file paths. So the reason this is helpful is, for example, I was talking about FreeRAN, which it's over there. I should just grab it and hold it up again. It will, I've got all the videos in a folder for season 1. In theory, also season 2, season 3. Only season 1 is what I have, but okay. Well, I don't want to have that NNEDI file, that bin file, in season 1 and season 2 and season. No, I don't want to have it in multiple places. I want to have it in just the main FreeRAN folder. So this tells it, hey, season 1, nope, go above that folder. Go above the season 1 folder into the main FreeRAN folder. That's where you find the bin file. Okay. I use this in other places as well, because also I don't want to put the script for doing the processing, the batch file script that we're not looking at now, but we'll get to that in a later video. So yeah, I don't want to keep that in the folder. It's like, nope, go up. Here's where the video is, up a level. That's where you find the script. So that is a very useful thing to know. Now these next two, Decimate. I kind of have the explanation there, but I still need to go through it. So, it's one of those funny things. Everything is filmed when it's actual film at 24 frames per second, okay? Movies, television, the only things I can think of that might be an exception outside of that one scene in the Hobbit movies that Peter Jackson decided, we'll do 48 frames per second. No, it's still multiple 24. Only exception would be like people doing some stuff with like recording in film cameras. Okay. Well, that. Got some text. They can put. All that's done at 24. Maybe not like if you're filming on your phone, but it's like that may be 30, that might be 60, but otherwise it's 24. Because that is what Edison decided on however long ago. And it actually makes sense because lights strobe. You probably wouldn't see it here, but even though these are LED lights, they will still actually strobe. So, and can even strobe more, where it's like, just on, off, on, off, on, off. It follows the frequency of the alternating current to our homes, which is 120 hertz. 1/5 of that is 24. So 24 frames per second was selected because that way the brightness of the bulb in the projector will be maximum. Because you don't want it to, if it were on the off cycles, or even just coming and going, then the brightness of the image is going to vary as you go. You don't want that. You want it aligned. So 24 frames per second. But television is at 30. It's a process called deinterlacing. Okay, that will convert 24 to 30. The deinterlacing process will also do interlacing. So technically, this deinterlacing filter that technically would replace everything above. I don't think it does a very good job though, so I don't use it, but I keep it here for the record. Decimate is to handle, hey, this was interlaced video. It is now deinterlaced, but it's at 30 frames per second instead of 24. That means some of the frames are duplicated. Decimate will go through and actually find, oh, these are identical frames. Get rid of it. It will do that, and it works. But as my note does say there, when I've tried this, it actually introduced jerkiness into the video as well. I'd rather just live at 30 FPS. Have that media at 30 FPS without that jerkiness. It's like, when it's playing, it's still smooth. It'll still look fine. It just, yeah, that's better than, oh, it's 24, but now it's jerky. It's, a little bit of micro stutter every now and then. It's like, no, I don't want that. Don't want that. But still, I keep it here because it's a good thing to have a record of. So that's all the deinterlacing. As I said, it's really just these two lines. It's really just those two that I use. Next we have this one, which this has actually changed some. Fortunately, both. I used to have an old way of doing it that is still actually recorded at this GitHub gist. Excuse me. That's there, but then when looking up, seeing if there was a better way to do it, because I was running into some issues, this is what was recommended. And notice this libplacebo. This is a filter that can do a lot of stuff. And I've made some tweaks from what was originally recommended, but the core of it is still the same. Oh, I should mention this. So libplacebo, in order for that to work, gotta find it. Here it is. You do need to enable FFmpeg to do some hardware work. In this case, initiate hardware device Vulkan. Okay, that is necessary for libplacebo. I haven't yet explained what libplacebo does. Forgive me for that. It is what I use for taking HDR, such as from a 4K Blu-ray, taking that and tone mapping it to SDR content. Okay, which that's all I can play. And honestly, a lot of the HDR is fake anyhow. So, no, I mean, legitimately, a lot of it is where they're just looking and be like, let's take this spot and just increase the brightness. Let's take this spot and like change the colors a little bit here. It's like a lot of it is fake. It's not like, oh, we're just scanning in the film to get that. I mean, the color palette, broader color palette, that might be legit. I could believe that they are in fact getting that out of the film, but then it is also they're gonna be going through and be leveling the colors in every frame. So Yeah, the adjusted color timing, so I could believe it still is kind of fake. But definitely the brightness, that's all fake. So I don't want that. Lip Placebo does a better job of it than the tone map. There's actually a tone map filter, and that's what I had been using. But it has some limitations and was causing some problems for me. But in order to use Lip Placebo, you have to tell it, hey, use a hardware decoding device, specifically Vulkan. And should also mention this, because somebody I know had him try using this, and it failed. I believe it was because his drivers were out of date. Vulkan, it's a thing for GPUs to run. You need an up-to-date driver for your graphics card in order to do that. Now, it might be your driver's already up to date. That might be the case. But if you run it and he was seeing out-of-memory errors, which makes no sense, his system should definitely have plenty of memory. And he also described the processing speed, because FFmpeg will tell you how fast it's going. He described that as being very fast. It's like, I have a feeling he was only doing the audio, that the video portion failed, because that's what the hardware decoding would be doing there, that the Vulkan stuff would be doing, be the video. So that may have failed, and it was just going really fast at the audio until the whole thing crashed, because it was like, yeah, this isn't working. Anyway. So Lip Placebo, and there's many parts here. This first part is telling it to scale the video down, because also I don't need it 4K. Okay, I don't. It's only 1080p television, and even then, I don't know how actually valuable 4K is over 1080. Do not get me wrong on one thing though. If I have the option of buying a 4K disc, especially if the set is here, I got Solid 17 here, and it is the 4K and a regular Blu-ray in here, that I will always choose. But the reason for that is because, and that's not necessarily an example of it, back when Blu-rays were still new, for whatever reason, the decision was, hey, people like smooth video. They don't like film grain. We'll apply digital noise reduction. Well, eventually they figured out, oh, wait, no, people don't actually like that. They want it to look like what's on the film. So they finally stopped doing that, but there are still some movies that were impacted by that. However, 4Ks at this point, for the most part, there's one 4K movie I know about that apparently the 4K does look like crap compared to the Blu-ray. But still, for the most part, 4Ks, they are trying to have that be, yeah, I know that they're making shit up for the HDR, but it still is. They're trying to have those be very good and true to the source masters, okay? So, awesome. That's why I would always go to the 4K if I can. And also, I have seen, I have Harvey over there. The Blu-ray that is older, it's not DNR'd, but the film, the grain characteristics in it are very different than what's on the 4K, and the 4K is much cleaner, much easier to work with. Anyway. This is going to be happening, by the way. I'm going to be going up on these tangents in these videos, definitely. But anyway, so this is going to scale it down from 4K, because I don't need it at 4K. 1080 is fine. Even if I had a 4K screen, I'd still be like, nah, 1080 is fine. I don't need to take up the extra space on the server, and it's fine. But this is a little bit more involved than just scaling down to 1080. Okay. For one thing, we've got the -1 here, which technically maybe I should do that as -4. Oh, Lip Placebo does explicitly state in its documentation, by the way, that its scaling command takes all the same arguments as the scale command, the scale filter in FFmpeg. So this -1, you can't scale to -1. What that's telling the filter is, hey, you can whatever matches, in this case, the height. Okay, so width is set to -1. Height is set to the minimum of the input height, IH, and 1080. So if I give it a 1080 video, that's the same thing. It doesn't need to scale. If I give it a 4K video, because that's now 2160, it's like, oh, okay, 2160 versus 1080. 1080 is a lower go to that one. Let's say I gave it a 480 video. Let's say I left this on for DVD for whatever reason. 480 or 1080. Well, 480 is down here, so keep scale to that. Oh, that's what it is, so it won't be changing anything. And then it, with the -1, is just, okay, keep the aspect ratio and just set the width to be whatever matches 1080 or lower, but 1080 correctly for 16 by 9. Technically, this should actually be -4, because this will do to the specific pixel. 265 is like this. I'm not sure about AV1. But 265, it needs the dimensions to be a multiple of 4. So by doing -4, that says, hey, it has to be a multiple of 4. Doesn't matter what would be the perfect number for the aspect ratio. To maintain the aspect ratio, it needs to be a multiple of 4. Go to the closest. Okay. But I've never run into a problem with it being a -1, though. Okay. Color plot primaries. Now, I mean, really just all of this is what's concerned with the tone mapping. So what I'm pretty sure it is saying, and I don't feel like going through all of the documentation. Like what this is saying is, hey, I want it to be, I wanted to use the BT709 color palette. Okay, what is this? Well, it's just the code name, the code ID for what is full NTSC color, so full television color. Okay, so every television is going to support BT709. There's also, I think it's 600 something. That's a limited palette. And it supports fewer colors. Yeah, 709 is full NTSC color space, so full television. So that's what every Blu-ray is going to be, not 4K. Every SDR Blu-ray, every SDR DVD is going to be 709. It's like, okay, so that's the target. Tone mapping. This is the thing that actually tells it how to take the HDR data and put it into SDR. How do we actually get the additional colors, but also the varying brightness, down to be in the SDR space? And the algorithm here is BT.2446A. libplacebo supports many. And I'm looking at the list right here. There is auto, where just based on internal heuristics, tries to figure it out. I'm not going to trust it. I'll explain why in a little bit. We then get clip. That's literally don't clip, just... don't tone map, just crop it off. ST2094-40, ST2094-10, BT2390, BT2446A, Spline, Reinhardt, Mobius. Hubble, that's the one I want to talk about in a moment. Gamma and linear. Okay. BT2446A is the one recommended in this. Okay, so the dude that was recommending this is what you should do for tone mapping, that's what he recommended. I'm accepting that. And looking at the different descriptions, yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, it even says in the documentation, the filter documentation on FFmpeg, designed for well-mastered HDR sources, can be used for both forward and inverse tone mapping. Not configurable, that's fine. But it's designed for well-mastered HDR sources. In theory, every 4K should be a well-mastered HDR source. Okay, they're trying to do that very well, so that it makes sense. This is the one to use. But Hubble, that's what I used to use. That was also mentioned at that same gist, using the tone map filter. What does it say? Piecewise filmic tone mapping algorithm developed by John Hubble for use in Uncharted 2. Inspired by a similar tone mapping algorithm used by Kodak, popularized by its use in video games with HDR rendering. Preserves both dark and bright details very well. Comes with a drawback of changing the average brightness quite significantly. Yeah. This is sort of similar to Reinhardt with a parameter of 0.24. Okay. Two things. One, yes, it does actually lower the average brightness. And when I was experimenting with the... I had noticed that when working with the HDR... after the tone mapping with Hubble previously, that yes, was making the frames darker. It wasn't that big a deal though. It worked. Like, it wasn't bad looking. It wasn't bad looking. In some cases, it actually changed the impression. It was kind of neat. But I had to move away because there was one film that I was working with. It was Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. When seeing the sun, that piecewise function fell over itself. And it was blocking very badly within the sun, because apparently it couldn't figure out how to tone map basically the brightest thing, tone map that down to look like what was around it, where that was less dim. It looked horrible. This algorithm It's fine. It's happy with that. So it's like, oh, now I'm happy. And it takes care of the, it doesn't have the issue of darkening the frame. It can, though. It can darken the frame. I did actually notice this was when I was redoing my Alien. I have Alien on 4K. And I had worked with, I did experiment with it using Habble, using my old command, experimented with it here. And there are actually some scenes where it would be brighter than the Habble, and some where it actually was darker. So it looks like this algorithm, the BT2446A, it does seem like it pays attention in every frame. And by the way, for anyone wondering, yes, this is completely part of the specification for HDR. Because a lot of the HDR is actually metadata, where like the brightness, it's just saying, hey, this frame can reach brightness of this. Hey, this frame can reach brightness of that. Okay? So you can see it change from frame to frame. This appears to respect that. I'm not sure if Habble was. Maybe it does, but this, it still is. I was definitely seeing this. It was doing variances there. That's fine. No issue with that. Habble wasn't seeing it so much. It did seem just generally darken it. Now I'm just trying to think, is there anything else before moving on to this last part, which is format, which is also kind of important. Well, it is important, but it's basically, it's just always going to be there. And it is one thing that I changed from the gist. Was there anything else with the tone mapping? Oh, yes, I do need to mention that. Experiment with this yourself if you want. It looks to me, I can just leave this on. In that I've tried running this on video that wasn't HDR, okay, that it was SDR. Or rather, I ran it on videos I've already converted. I've already done the tone mapping to. I ran it on that, and it didn't like try to apply the tone mapping again. So that's good. Meaning that in theory I can just leave this on. Because it'll never scale up a DVD, and Blu-rays will stay at 1080, and 4K Blu-rays, well, yeah, it'll do the HDR mapping, tone mapping, and it'll scale down. That's what I want. So in theory, I might be able to leave this on all the time. I'm not sure. I still think it's best to only turn it on when it is called for. But it does seem, if you make that mistake, you might be safe. Experiment with it, though. Don't make certain of that before it's just, you have it on all the time. Okay, so now let me explain this thing. This format equals YUV 420p 10, it's 10LE. Okay, so the original command, it's actually just that, YUV 420p. So this is how colors are stored in the frame, which is a whole science that is, I have some very basic layman's understanding to it. So YUV, the V, I'm pretty sure V is luminance. The Y and the U store the actual color, well, the chroma. Okay, so it's a chroma portion, then luminance portion. Together you get color. And it's literally axes on a graph. Y is, like, I don't remember what the colors are. It was like going from yellow to green, and then there's blue to red on the other, something like that, and then the luminance. And then 420. So what that's saying is encode the pixel. Images are typically not actually encoded pixel by pixel, but instead groups of pixels, quads, 2 by 2. Okay? 420, what that is saying is the first pixel up here. So the 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 1. It has all of its color information stored there. Okay? 2 and 3, that's the 2 here. They don't. They have half of that stored. Okay? And then the last one, it has even less stored. It's not actually 0, but yeah, it's you're technically, it's called chroma subsampling because you're trying to reduce the amount of data there. And for the most part, it's fine. In fact, I think Blu-rays are typically, this is what it is. YUV420p. P is just, it's kind of like BT709 versus BT6, whatever it is. It's just saying, hey, yeah, use the full color palette. It's not like progressive and interlace. It's not that kind of P. But yeah, most video content you look at, it's YUV420. Sometimes it can be like, you might see NV12, I think it is. I don't remember. It's actually the same. It's the same thing. It's just the dimensions are drawn out differently. But it's the same color space, the same kind of thing. Okay. You might see occasionally 444. That would be full chroma. So, like, I know in at least one image editor, GIMP, when you save something, you can set it to 444, and that is every pixel in that quad, full chroma data being stored for each pixel. This, it's less, but it's a way to, save data. And it is, as I said, it's the standard. So yeah, you want to be in that. Okay, well, what's this last portion then? 10LE. So most video is stored 8-bit, okay? Sometimes there's some cheating. It's actually 6-bit. Or it's transmitted 6-bit, and you use a process called dithering to bring up to 10. To 8-bit. And this is something you see in various things. It's another way to save some data, where the dithering is basically, you want the color here, but you can't actually do that color. You can do this color, can't do this color. So what you do is you just dither back and forth. You have it bounce back and forth between those, so persistence of vision looks like the color in the middle. That's just very much an aside, though. It's just, you do sometimes see, like, you occasionally might see something described as like a true 10-bit monitor, because a lot of monitors that say they're HDR might be 8-bit with dithering versus a true 10-bit. Okay, meaning an 8-bit with dithering isn't supporting full 10-bit video, 10-bit colors of true 10-bit that supports it. There's also 12-bit and 14-bit. I'm not sure if we've actually gone to 16-bit, but anyway. And there is like 10-bit with dithering to get you to 12 and all that. 10LE. So what this is saying is actually it's 10-bit video. It's an 8-bit source, but it's a 10-bit, but it is still 10-bit video. Why do I want to do that? And what is this LE? That stands for Little Endian. ENDIAN. Technically it is Indian, I believe. That you pronounce it that way. I'm not sure. It's how I normally do, but I wanted to emphasize the N portion. Anyway, it's and it is just how the data is stored, because 10 bits can store numbers in different ways. Little Endian is one of them. And this is something you will see various people do recommend. AV1, SVT AV1 basically is I'm going to do all the math in 10-bit. Well, why? Because it's better. You know that dithering stuff? That's hard to encode, especially when it's after the fact. So it's like you had a source that had the dithering in there, and it's like, okay, you want to re-encode it though. It might not translate very well if you stay in 8-bit. If you bump it up to 10-bit, however, the math is cleaner. It's actually one of those things that, because all computers are, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. I want to say digital, but that's not really capturing it. They're not precise. They're not perfect. There is some error there. And if you have 8-bit storage for data and an 8-bit source, and you're trying to do math on top of that, you can end up with extra stuff here that's getting cut off. So you're losing stuff. You're truncating it. By instead saying, hey, no, just work in 10-bit. Now you get that extra piece there. So now the math being done, that even though it's still only 8-bit that's you're probably ever going to see, that the 9th and 10th bit keep the math clean. So you're not getting an error that's just propagating forward. So yes, a very common recommendation, and it does make sense because it keeps the math cleaner, is work in 10-bit. Doesn't matter that the source is 8-bit. You want to have FFmpeg do its processing in 10-bit, because it just will basically secure against, it's a safeguard against errors that can happen if you just work in 8-bit. One thing that I will also mention, because I've seen some people try to claim that it will may make the videos larger. I did some experimenting with it. This was years ago. I didn't see any real difference. Not with this, but just having the video processing being done in this format, YUV420p10LE, which it's also later on. I have it set later on. With the 10LE, without the 10LE, the file size turned out to be the same in the end, or like very near each other. So it's like, no, you're not actually inflating by going from 8 to 10-bit. You're not inflating the file size. Don't worry about it. All right. that's enough talking about that one. So let's get this last one, which I tend not to use. And actually, hang on. Can pause for a moment. I'll be right back. All right. Still love that pause fucking shit. Okay, I wanted to grab free. The reason why is because, remember, I am watching with Japanese audio, so I would need the English subtitles in there, right? So there's different ways of doing this. All the stuff with subtitles, that's going to be a different later video, because it's not relevant for everything. It's certainly relevant here. But maybe I prefer to have the subtitles rendered on there, but not burned into the image. And like, I want the image clean without the subtitles there. But if you want to burn them in, that's what this function should be doing. Should be. I think last time I tried it, it didn't really work. Not entirely sure why. Actually, looking at it, where the mouse go? There it is. No. Yeah. So this is technically a complex filter because I'm having to give it two sources. So what's happening here is it's saying the result of all the other filter streams. Okay, so it's all these filters are being applied to the video stream. That video stream should be named this, proc, for processed. Okay, now take that. Next thing is take that, combine, and also take the first audio stream, subtitle stream, and apply the overlay function, which is just going to take the overlay, take the image that is the subtitle. If it were a text-based subtitle, it would also work. And just burn it into the image, apply it onto the image. In theory, that's what that should be doing. As I said, I've tested it before and didn't really seem to work, but it's also, my preference is not to mess with the video in that way. But it does. How then do I mess with the video? Well, that'll be in a different video, at least the details of it. I'll say this much. There is software for basically going through and doing OCR, optical character recognition, on the image-based subtitles that are in Blu-rays. DVD can also use it, but I've also seen DVD give me the text-based. But yeah, you do that, spits out a text file. You may need to go through and edit it. I have been doing that as I've been going through. OCR is not perfect. But that text-based subtitle track, a Roku will actually play. It'll take that and just render it on the screen. So that works very nicely. I'm happy with that. That's what I prefer. If you prefer burning in, then go ahead and do that. You may want to do some checking because it's in here, but I said I'm not sure if it's actually working correctly. Sorry. It also wouldn't be... That's not the... I don't think that's the right track. I think Freewind, the first track, is the forced subtitle. So you'd also want to check that to make sure that that this is pointing to the correct stream. But also, if you don't care and you are fine with the server doing it, it will, if you were to just select the English subtitle track while playing it back, and I use Jellyfin and will do this because the Roku, it doesn't support a subtitle track an image-based subtitle track along with the video. So the Jellyfin will be like, okay, I will burn that in myself right now and play the new transcoded file. I don't want it doing that. I want direct playing because it's I know that what the quality is there because the transcoding might be changing it. And it also means that it's literally just reading a file off the disk. There's no additional processing, and it's not having to make a new temporary file. Right? I don't want to have to deal with that, so that's why I will go to the text-based. But if you're fine with it being burned in either by the server or by yourself, well, if it's by the server, don't worry about it at all. If it's by yourself, then you want to use this and just make sure it's working correctly. As said, I'm not sure it is, but okay. Now I'm going to scroll down, and there's a lot. Like this, I know is kind of weird. This is that. That's for another video. Okay, so yeah, I should mention this. So what we have here, oh, and we also have the old command here. This is the old one that I used for tone mapping before. As you can see, hobble there. It is not that good. And I'm keeping that there. I'm fine with people seeing that. It doesn't look that good. The new thing works much better. But I have this. This is important. So, this is my test script, as I said, for figuring out, okay, how do I want to tune in the settings based on what I cut out. Typically, I would, when experimenting with 265, I would work with these. So I can set, this will be in another video, but like how I'm doing it. Bitrate limit, CRF, preset. But when I'm working with an HDR source, what I do is I actually turn that off and then I turn these on. And I have this go through, and it is now doing the tone mapping and scaling down the video for me, because now I'm working with regular Blu-ray level scenes that I can then either continue testing with X265 or test in AV1. But it's now I'm not worrying about any of the tone mapping, that's already been done. Which is helpful because I do have one application. I probably won't do a video showing it, but I will try to include links to it in places. But by the way, I have no schedule when this stuff is going to be done. Sorry about that. But, or like, I'm doing this, it's coming together as I do it, as opposed to me having a big plan for all this. But anyway, I do have something to let me compare between original source file and processed file. It doesn't like HDR. So doing this is helpful for that as well. So what I do when I cut out sections from a 4K disc is I have it as I run it this way. So I've got this command that it's the same as what's up above. I have this that it gets run and just calls up the thing to process it with X265. Sets a 50 megabit bitrate limit. So this thing, I've always used X265 with a bitrate limit. This is effectively, there is no limit. Okay, you really shouldn't have much at 1080 that's crossing 50 megabit. A CRF of 12, which is very low, this should absolutely be visually lossless, and then still using this low preset. I'll explain all the preset stuff another time. That's what I actually wanted to pull up, is the scaling. So this is how to scale. So this is, I can just tell it, hey, I want to scale the video down. Here I am using that -4, like I mentioned earlier. And then the minimum of the input height and whatever I'm scaling it to. So that might be 480. Most likely is. But yeah, so I can do that. These are actually set to 720, but it's also, I've moved away from 265 so much that that doesn't really come up too much. But yeah, so that's the only other filter, though, scale filter, that's called at a different time and in a different way. But that would largely be for another video. Yeah, so that covers all the filters here, aside from audio filters. Oh, well, no, sorry. There are technically 2 more filters, which I have them. Ideally, I will never use them, but they're here. These are both for denoising, which, I mean, sometimes you get a source where it's like, you know what, maybe I want to denoise it so it has a chance at not being 30 megabit. Legitimately, sometimes it feels like it goes that high. So these are 2 that I found that seem to work, but ideally, no, I don't want to do that. They're here. I don't want to ever use them. There's also some audio filter stuff, as I said earlier, that will be in a different video. Wow, this one is going long. All these have to go long because there's so much involved. But the audio stuff, that will be handled in a different video. There is technically still some audio filter stuff. It's just amplification. I already did the one video talking about how I do, like, en masse. But for, like, just a single movie, I don't want to use the run volume tech. No, I want, at the time it's processing the video, also process the audio. I want that all done together. So that is actually in here then. So this is the other one. Yeah, so it's right here. In this case, and it's AF for audio filter. For the multi-channel, I have to do it a little differently. Here, filter A and then 0 to tell what the stream is. But that'll all be in another video. I'm just teasing you with what it will be later. Oh, no, I should also mention this. So I put these files into other folder. The files that get processed down to other folders. That folder will be named Reencode X265 in this case, Reencode SVT AV1 HDR in that case. And then in this variable is used in different places. But fold check, that is one of the custom functions that is common across everything. I got a lot in here. Which is literally just a, if that folder does not exist, make that folder. That's all. Fold name is to find what the current folder name is. Don't really use that anymore, but might as well leave it there. Okay, I do remember what this is. I don't use that anymore. I can get rid of that. So this would be for setting, it's a configuration setting. So I can set rate to be whatever is being passed to it, CRF, that's passed there, and preset, that's there. I don't do that anymore. I handle things other ways. The audio processing, video processing commands. Are there any other here that I should cover? Oh yeah, vid height. This doesn't work. I'll get to vid height. I've already covered auto channel. Okay, so it's just these. So vid height is, it will read what the, and I'll have to talk about this in another video as well because it relates to this stuff, but is to figure out, okay, what is the height of the input video? It's to find that, because then I can do some stuff based on that. I wouldn't recommend it today, but it works as a fallback. I tried to have it figured out so that, okay, when this is a, like a 1080 video, set the bitrate limit to this. When it's a 720 video, set the bitrate to this. When it's a 480 video, set to this. I tried to do that. It still kind of works. Like, those are fair targets to start with, but you want to be able to edit the bitrate limit to whatever you want. And then vid rate, some videos would actually say, you could actually get out of the metadata what the bitrate was. And it's like, okay, I want it to be half the bitrate. You can figure something. Never got that working reliably, but it's still in there because, why not keep the legacy? All right. So, hey, you got some bonus information out of me in this one. Yeah, we'll just... That's all there is for this. The rest of it is encoder parameters, is encoder-specific stuff. So that's for another video. This one is long enough as it is. See you next time.